Hey, so I just did my coffee maker without a cup underneath it. Happens about once, maybe twice a month. So now I have to clean up boiling water and then make a new cup of coffee. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This isn't even my first cup of coffee. I don't even have that for an excuse. Yeah, hold on. Ow. Okay, don't spill that too. So I'm making watercolor binder to make watercolor paints. That's what I'm doing today. And I put the pot on the stove with water to boil, and I set my coffee maker up. And I've looked around the kitchen twice now. I cannot find my cup that I was drinking out of from earlier. It's not in the bathroom. It's not by my chair. It's not here anywhere. It's probably over by my paints. Probably. Which is a bad thing in and of itself because you don't have any food or drink near mineral paints. Or mineral paint powders. So, it's the only place I can think of where it is. Anyway, there's still liquid under that. Come back here. Ow. Yeah. It's amazing how much volume is 1 cup of coffee. Amazing. So right now I'm boiling water because to make paint you're supposed to have distilled water, and I don't have any distilled water, and I'm not in the mood to go pay for distilled water, and I'm not in the mood to drag out my giant huge stovetop distiller thing. So I'm boiling water and figuring I'll use up the binder fast enough that it won't matter. The reason for using distilled water is that binder can occasionally grow mold. I think that's for people who put it in their refrigerator and forget about it for 6 weeks at a time. I personally really think that. Anyway, I really hate this look. Really, really hate it. There we go. You know? So, I have to make another cup of coffee. I'm sure we've all been following the politics ad nauseum. I had a bit of a flash. I don't want to call it an epiphany or anything like that, but I had a bit of a flash that goes to motive. And I'm going to try to think my way through it as soon as I get this coffee down, and you can tell me what you think. We talk about how Trumpers treat Trump as a religion. How they're brainwashed. Yeah, that's my water. Can you see the steam? Yeah, you can see the steam. Because I have to boil it for 10 solid minutes to make sure it's sterilized. When you have to boil water for sterilization purposes, it takes 10 minutes of solid boil. Which means you need 3 times the volume of water as you're going to have at the end, because it's all going away in steam. Okay, we talk about how Trumpers treat Trumpism as a cult, that they're brainwashed. I'm going to take it one step further, and it's the start of a new religion, not a cult. Mormonism was a cult that became a new religion during its evolutionary process. Every religion starts out as a cult. Every religion is by definition a cult. But we're going to start it as a religion. When they say make America great again, and when they say they want their America back again, we all assume they want the 1950s housewife on drugs, strong white male goes off to engineering job that supplies for the family. I don't think that's what they're subconsciously or even consciously talking about. I think they want their myths back. They want their lies back. They knew they were lies. Do you remember in school when something would come up and kids would question the teacher like, Why is it a massacre when Indians do it, but a raid when army guys do it? It's the same thing. It's a battle. Because the Indians killed women and children. So did the army. I got in trouble for that one. Okay. For the last... Okay, you have to start with Future Shock. Alvin Toffler's Future Shock, which was written by Alvin, and I do believe her name is Heidi. Anyway, his wife wrote 90% of the book, and they put his name on the cover. When they wrote Future Shock, it was about people failing to adjust to the transition from agrarian society to industrial society. People who had lived through the Victorian revolutions, industrial revolutions, and rejected. They couldn't cope with the selection in the grocery store. They couldn't cope with styles changing every year, clothing styles. They couldn't cope with the speed of automobiles and that newspapers could be printed every single night. They couldn't cope with the speed at which the world was changing. They wanted their world back. Okay? Trumpers, this current generation, and be very, very clear, they have the same phenomena going on in Europe. That's what Brexit was about. They have the same conservative, racist bullshit wanting their world back all over the planet. Because it's a generational thing. And when I say generational, people think that that means only those born between this year and that year are affected. No, because it's hereditary and it's contagious. And you give it to your kids, and chances are they're the holdovers from the people who couldn't handle the Industrial Revolution and blah, blah, blah. But let's go to our lifetime, my lifetime. I remember in 4th grade being told the Thanksgiving story. And the teacher was actually honest enough to say, and this probably didn't happen, and this and this and this, and gave qualifiers. And 90% of the kids were just so gung-ho about the Pilgrims. Woohoo! And 10% of the kids, me and my 3 friends, weren't. Because we all had darker skin and darker hair and darker eyes. Okay? And we just weren't. We wanted to know more about the Indians. And I remember reading The Last of the Mohicans in 4th grade and getting in trouble for reading it. And trying to talk about that in the context and being told to shut up and go away. Trumpers believed the stories of the Pilgrims and the Happy Thanksgiving. They believed it. They were told it as a child, and they believed it, and it became part of their internalized reality that this is what happened. I have a friend on Facebook, a friend of a friend. Well, no, she's a friend. She's the wife of a friend who is tracing her genetics back and has found that she's a descendant of an original Pilgrim. And she's so happy and she's so excited, and I just want to say, oh really, so you're the ones that killed so-and-so, wiped out this clan, and did this and did that. Because they did some really awful shit. But I'm not, because, you know, don't yuck on someone's yum. That phrase is very problematic, but anyway. She believes it. And round about Halloween time, I posted the Wednesday Addams Halloween, we're going to take back your village thing, and she made a comment on my post that she always hated that. I was like, yeah, because it speaks truth. Don't tell me not to post it, you know? She's not a Trumper at all. But she is an example of some of that mentality. Because she wants the Happy Pilgrims. She wants to believe in the 4th of July. She wants the American myth. And these are people, when they say, make America great again, they're saying, give me back my myths. An example, Thomas Jefferson. My husband used to be a huge Thomas Jefferson fan. back when not that much was really known, except for the dry facts that were reported at the day. Well, back in the 70s, they found the small room behind the bedroom where he kept the female slave that he had children with, who it turns out was the half-sister of his wife, who it turns out he got pregnant when she was 14, who he never freed, who he never freed her children who were also his children, who he brought in 5 other young girls. And you start looking at the real legacy of Thomas Jefferson, and wow, that guy's one step up above John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, he's really creepy. And I was telling the husband about, I was reading an article in, I think it was National Geographic's. It might have been in something else. Anyway, I was reading this article about the real Thomas Jefferson. And the husband's like, that's another one of my heroes gone. And I was like, you sound like a maghat. And we had a few words. It was fun. We fight back and forth decoratively. We say insulting things and then we both laugh because we can't keep a straight face and be insulting at the same time. 2 more minutes on the water. This might be cool enough to drink. No, not cool enough to drink. That really hurt. They want the myth of Thomas Jefferson back. They want the myth of Ben Franklin inventing lightning. They want all of those myths back that have been slowly but surely stripped away over the last 20, 30 years. As historians and reality has caught up to what happened. They want the lies of their childhood to be truth. And that's what they're fighting for. The cognitive dissonance you're seeing is they built their personality around these myths. Not quite example. There's an actor that I follow who does podcasts who at least every other podcast will drop a gemstone. I mean, a lot of shit in his mix. But he'll drop something that will make me come to a complete stop and reassess. And I follow people who do that. If you can make me think about something, I will follow you. Even if you say shitty things that I disagree with. Because I can filter those shitty things. I really can. Some people can't. I don't know. He made a comment a couple weeks back about Vanderbilt made his fortune because he was born in America. He was born at the right time in America. That's how he built his fortune. So I pop open Wikipedia and look up Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's father was a politician of middle rank, and Vanderbilt's mother was a college professor in the 1880s, which means that she was rich or she wouldn't have been indulged. Period. Okay? You know, they bought the gymnasium in order for her to have the professorship. That kind of thing. She might have been an admin. I'm not sure. At an Ivy League school, which means Vanderbilt got to go to one of the premium schools of the day at little or no cost, which means Vanderbilt made his fortune because he was born into the right family, the right white family at the right time. Not because he was born in America at the right time. Because he could have been born into a rich Paris family and been just as successful. I can't remember when the revolution was compared to Vanderbilt, but you know what I mean. Okay? He didn't make it on his own. And this actor made that comment that he made it on his own, and I'm like, that's an American myth. That's one of those myths we teach kids. So, yesterday he did a podcast, and one of the takeaways for me was he made a comment about how on the right people believe that family is everything and the only thing, and you forgive family and you ignore, the water's done, it just has to cool down to not quite boiling, you ignore a lot of bullshit. And on the left, people are always trying to find their tribe. And the problem with trying to find your tribe is that's like trying to find 27 soulmates. Ain't gonna happen. You're trying to find 10 to 20 people who are exactly you. Ain't gonna happen. And he prefers the private detective school of thought, which is that a private detective is only as good, I've said this before, is only as good as his route. He goes to the diner and he has breakfast and chats with the waitress and the manager and the one person who's always there. And he goes over to the gym and he works out for a while and talks to the one gym rat. And he goes all around town, basically, around his town, chatting with people, and he gets to know various people. It's like if he pulls into a gated business, he stops and chats with the guy at the gate. And the private detective is friendly with everyone. And he has people in his life that he knows if he needs something, they're there for him. If he needs to move, they're there for him. If they need something, he's there for them. But he doesn't necessarily call them friends, and he sure as heck doesn't call them family. They're just the people in his life. He's a lone wolf. And he prefers that school of thought because you're touching base with a lot of people, you're interacting with a lot of people, you have a lot of drinking buddies, but you don't have the baggage. Anybody who's ever been street, anybody who's ever been really poor, anybody who's ever been on drugs or alcohol too much, knows the routine you get into. I'm going to go over to so-and-so's house for a couple of hours, then I'm going to go crash on that couch for a couple of hours, then I'm going to go wander over to her house for a while, and then I'm going to go swing by this store and poke at the pretties, and then and you have your routes. And you have your Monday route, and you have your Tuesday route, and you have your Wednesday, and this is your life. It's transient. To hear a 55-year-old person who's fairly well established advocate for that lifestyle as a healthy lifestyle made me stop and think and say, why do we say it's not a healthy lifestyle? Why do we insist that you have to have your tribe, your clan, your groups? You know? Anyway, MAG hats, when they say make America great again, they're asking for their myths back, and the reason they have cognitive dissonance is because we are breaking their childhood idols. That's what they're fighting against, and they're not going to stop. You know? They honestly believe that seeing a black man in the White House was as oppressive. Seeing was as oppressive as seeing and understanding that children were being separated from their families. They can't separate the two. They're just as bad. We suffered under Obama, you have to suffer under Trump. That's what their claim was. It's going to get bad for a little while. Been saying that. It's going to get bad for a little while. The Randy Weaver standoff, the Waco standoff, go look at history from when the last time white supremacy reared its head in America and how many little local shootings and bombings there were. Okay? It's gonna get bad. Keep it safe. I'll talk to you later. That's an ugly. I've got to work on my posing because I get into these, I'm a hunchback, things that just aren't attractive. And I'll talk to you later.